Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy to have you all here over at Earl Williams Advantage. Excited to start using this space even more for these agents and downtown people as well. We have a beautiful office over here. We're happy to have. We're also going to be holding another one of these classes over at downtown next month, and then we'll see us come back the month after that. And so we invite all of you guys to go downtown as well. In a month from now, where we're going to be doing a follow-up to this class, which is going to be the SMART plan section. That's how Bryan uses some of the SMART plans, some of the other plans that we use in Bryan's business to help build it and sustain the goals that he has. Today, we're going to be working on some really simple stuff. And I carry this book everywhere I go. How many people in here have read this book? If your hand's not up yet, you need to get one. If you need one, come see me. I will get one. Jason, you want to do that?
Do you have to say, you guys decide to listen to it? I'll have you guys listen to it and go back to the chapter and highlight. But the Audible does have incredible stuff and that are just stories that made the whole book worth it. So just
one of my favorite parts of this book, and basically you're kind of halfway through it, it's at the beginning. It talks about these two pictures here and the way that agents run their business. And it's one of the hardest things that I deal with is seeing agents insist on running a business via creativity. And creativity means I do what I want. I'm on social media. I go on there. I call people. They call me, and my business just happens. And that means their business happens in the spring, and then they're asking me, what do I do to get business for the winter? And how do I set my plan? I need to do all this, but then they still stay in creativity. They still want to work off of creativity. And can you do this business with being creative? Absolutely. I see agents do it all the time. Captives do it all the time. Creativity is all they survive on their business. As we see the market shift, where we see your business shift, creativity does not go as far. And we see these pictures in the MREA because it's talking about the foundation of your business. If your business foundation is on creativity, how solid of a business is this one compared to a business based on systems? And today we're going to be talking about the simple systems that Bryan used to cap this year. And I'll tell you guys the name of the class was a lie. He did not cap in 60 days. Sorry. 36. 36. Now,
false advertising.
Well, that's not the false part. The false part is
There's a month where there's
Bryan,
is true.
Bryan, how many months did you work before your cap was set? How many months did you work on this system? 6 months. Now, Bryan wants to live here, but knows he has
So
to.
good at it.
He wants to be here so bad, which is why it took him 6 months to get to the point of having to set it up slowly. But what we're going to go through is simple. There's nothing rocket sciencey about today. We're going to talk about the birthday SMART plan a little bit. We're going to talk about his follow-up. And we're going to talk about how we support it inside of command with the opportunity section. It is basic stuff. This guy couldn't handle rocket science if he wanted to, and doesn't want to try this. And so we made it easy.
Technology is very low. So
Well,
when you get there, you just
with that, Bryan, go ahead and, for the people who don't know you in here, don't know you that well, go ahead and just give us a quick 1 minute. You get 1 minute. 1 minute intro about yourself. And then we're going to start in and talk a little bit about goals first. And then right after Bryan introduces himself, we're going to get into our computers and talk about goals. Go ahead, Bryan.
awesome. Overview of me, I did varsity for 14 years, got into real estate cold turkey, got into it, worked on a team, doing flips and such things, knocking on doors. I knocked on at least 10 doors a day. Everything was creative. The team had no structure, no longer exists. It was 100% creative. I had no idea what's going on. Up until this year that I started creating systems, models, make it. I got sick of chasing every single year. I did in GCI average 100,000 every single year, which is okay. But after 3 years of making the exact same money and swearing every year I was going to double triplet and not getting there, I just didn't understand what the hell was going on. And I didn't have any database. I didn't know how to make a spreadsheet. We joke, I didn't know how to make a folder in my computer. It showed me how. And it was just, I was just so lost. I eventually started reaching out to him, taking his classes. I scheduled time with him every single week. Even if we didn't have anything to talk about, we just review stuff and start going through it. So I started creating systems, models that are now more than doubling my business. And will from now on. Now it's so automated, systems tell me what to do, that let's all be real. We all are our own boss, but it's nice to have someone to tell me what to do everything. If I have those systems and models and scheduling, so we'll probably do a class on scheduling at some point, on how I break everything down, as long as I stay within those systems. I don't have to stress about me at all. I just go do the work, get it done, and move on. And now I have more free time and a lot more money. You guys like free time? Does anyone disagree with that? Because I love free time. But, all right, you can take that.
Well, one thing I do want to talk about is when we were working on those 6 months that we mentioned before. In 2020, Bryan, how many advisories did you sign? Advisories as in buyer or seller? How many? 13 in 2020. In January, you went full in on the system, right? You were doing the task. It was, pretty simple, but he did it. By June, how many agencies had you signed? By the end of June?
24.
24. And this is
22. I was
22. And this is really what this class is about. It's not that Bryan capped in 60 days that he got to KW, and then in 60 days he was capped, or 36 days he was capped. It's that he did a lot of work beforehand to make sure that his business was set up for success for the next 12 months. How many agency agreements do you still need to close that you have of those 22? A lot of them. You'll see his pipeline. You'll see what's going on in there.
It takes time, right? And it compounds over time. And I even got overwhelmed. I'm gonna be very vulnerable with you guys. So
is that okay? He might cry. Just be aware.
Yeah.
Just be aware. It's all right. All right. All right.
But yeah, there's a lot of challenges I expected. I even had the last few months, summertime I got a little burnt out and lagged. I took vacation, recharged. I learned what I need to do to sustain my business. Now it's just right now. Listing on the market today, another one coming tomorrow, and like 3 active buyers going in. You'll see all that stuff. It's just my systems are working so well right now that even if I slack a little bit, I'm still producing. So.
All right. So we have a question. Yes, sir.
Bryan, do you employ anyone? Is that all?
Right now, I have a transaction partner, which I mentioned out. I use regular transactions. There's a lot of them. That's just one. I've hired people part-time to do some billing work on hand to get the virtual system to have this stuff, and then it's super cheap. And then I'm looking to bring on several showing systems so that they can do all the showings and actually work on listings and contracts and eventually buyers.
In terms of your system, do you give them full access to all your systems, or like portion of it, or
the transaction? I also use Leslie Jackson, Art Vasquez. I just run the program for them to take over almost all this stuff. So I'm all about outsourcing. The less I can do, the more I'm just calls, more connections I can make, the more money. So Jose began in our office. We used to also work with actually with both my coaches, Jose and Art. And Jose doesn't look at his own emails. He leverages everything. He just makes calls. He almost doesn't even want to. He just doesn't. He's millionaire grocery. He's at gross now. He's about to. So it's just one of those things. Like as soon as you can't leverage stuff, you shouldn't be dropping off your own signs. Worth $35 you should be doing things that are important to your clients, like showing up at the end of the inspection, so you don't feel so stressed out. Well, showing up and they feel stressed out about things is what's important in that relationship. The rest of the stuff, I don't want to do, and I'm horrible at. So I'd rather pay someone else to do it so I can just do more of what I'm good at and keep crushing. Does that answer your question?
Now, before we move on, anybody else have another question? Anything just itching to ask me or Bryan? Bobby Joe, I know you had a question.
You guys can.
No, we can't. We got to move on. You guys can't ask Bryan anything.
So I'm gonna take gold.
Do
Obviously, it's been-
gold, I don't know how to read it. I'm taking every gold. I've never not taken it because you just know about gold in any class you take, the more you participate, how you participate in this process, how you participate. out there. So if anything that makes you uncomfortable in gold is something you need to do. Things that are uncomfortable are the things that you need to grow and just dive into it. No one cares about your insecurities but yourself. You don't know yourself. Your courage could encourage others. So
Yes. Well, if you guys don't know, tomorrow is the first day of the quarter. Excuse me, first day of the last quarter of the year, which also should be a flag in your head in this business to say, I better have my business plan ready and know what I want to do next year. Because if you're waiting till January to do that, you're 3 months behind. And so October 1st, that's tomorrow. And the way that I would say this brings into bold, this bold that we're going to be doing is all about planning and executing your plan. And Command is your back-end system. And so what we're going to do right now, I want you guys all to log into Command, and then you're going to go over to the report section and then hit goals. And we're just going to go in and make sure that your 2021 goals are set in there. And there is a reason we're using 2021 and not 2022. We can't see the 2022 ones yet. We can set them, but we can't see them. So we're only going to work in 2021 right now. So if you go into Command, the 3 bars on the side, and then goals at the top, and then we're going to click on the goal setting, bluish green button in the top corner. And then you should see this page. If I just kind of see your eyes peek up when you get to this page, and then you can hit get started.
So we're doing 2021, we're not gonna do
Correct. Correct. You can set 2022 right now, Tyson, but we can't see the breakdowns that we need for the class today. So if you put it into 2021, it'll calculate the breakdowns of number of appointments that you need to set based on your profit goal. And that's what we're going to use today to help you guys get a weekly plan of how many opportunities you need to put into your pipeline per week.
If I change my 2021 goals, is that gonna screw up
Is this mine?
what I got?
This is mine.
It will reset them, yes.
Is this mine?
But if you have that 411 number and you've already done your 2021 goals, you're good. We just are looking for how many appointments do you need to set based on what your profit needs to be.
It shows my 2022. Which is crazy.
All right. So as you go through here, I want you guys to fill this out. If you haven't filled them out for 2021, that's okay. Go ahead and do it now. Fill out the number. The first thing that you're going to do is fill out your profit. And then,
You want to take home.
yes, this is not what you want to close. This is not the GCI you want. This is what you are actually putting into your pocket as your profit.
Okay.
And are we filling this in based on the last 3 months of the year?
No, just think about what you want. If you haven't ever filled it out, just fill out what you want for the next year, as
Yeah.
if you were starting in January 1st this year. Okay? Don't think about what you've done. Think of this as a daydream. Okay?
As a what?
Daydream.
Oh, daydream. Yes. Yeah.
So this is mine. This is mine.
These are his real actual goals, expenses, and cost of sales.
I thought I was gonna have a full-time assistant paying $60,000. So there's also a big portion of that is that. And I had all these crazy goals that are coming into fruition, but things change.
So Jen, you had a question in the back. Did you get it answered? All right. Do we want to go through expenses versus cost of sale? Does anybody want us to go through the differences between those? Okay, real quick, expenses are things that you're paying regularly, no matter what, if you close or not. You're going to pay those expenses. Cost of sale is the price that you pay only when you are actually doing business. So that would be like your transaction coordinator fee. You only get charged that when you actually close something like your cap. If you don't know what your cost of sale is, put in whatever your cap is. That is your cost of sale for now if you're a newer agent. If you know that your cost of sale is a little bit more, take the number of deals in your head that you want, multiply it by however you pay your TC, and $400, 10 deals, 4,000 a year. Something like that is usually pretty regular for those goals.
That's an annual number, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is an annual number. All of these are annual.
Is anyone's annual profit goal less than 100,000? What is it? 90? Maybe 100. What's that? 50? Why?
Because I'm part, I'm retired and I'm doing it.
Okay, I appreciate that. So thank you.
All right.
I'll accept that. Tell you double that
So down, as you guys fill out here, is there any questions? Everybody got this filled out to the bottom where we can hit next now together? Because this is just a piece of the important stuff that we want. Now, we can change these goal conversion ratios. What these are talking about is if you had a lead and you brought that lead in, and we want to say of all the leads that we bring in, we had 100 of them, we can convert 5 to contacts. That's a 5% conversion ratio. If you know yours, that you actually know if you had 100 leads given to you, that you actually convert 30 of them into contacts, well, then you would put 30 here. If you don't know, leave them the way they are. They are very conservative estimates, so that if you hit these goals, you're going to exceed your actual monetary goals. If you hit the ones from command based on these conversions, because they're very conservative. 5% of lead to contact, contacts to appointment, only at 5%. Bryan, where are you at on contacts to appointment?
I think it's contact to appointment, it's about that, 5%.
5%?
It's these that go way up.
Mm-hmm.
So like appointment kept to agreement, I'm at like 95%. So I left it as this, as you can see, this is the automated one. I had no idea. My favorite quote in the world is every master comes from disaster. Luckily with command, they already put stuff in there for us. So I don't need to think about it. Now that I know that track my numbers over this last year, now in 2022, we have completely different numbers. Me and him sat down with a calculator, we figured out what the actual numbers were for appointments and this, that. Out of the 30 appointments I've gone on, I've gone 28 agreements or something. I think it's actually more than that now this week. I've done like 4, but like, it's just one of those things. Like I know now how to prep my appointments and how to. I've always been good about that. I know that my appointments are going to get signed officially. We can go over that in another class.
All right. So on here, you should be to this screen. This is your just breakdown. As long as you're here and you see your profit goal there, we're good to move on to the next step. And really the reason that we're doing that is because command is going to take all that info that you just did, your price and all that, and your profit of what you want to make, and it's going to compute. Well, that means you need to close this many deals. And when I say this many, I mean this one right here. So when you get over to this screen that we started on, if you didn't see this breakdown here, it's because you hadn't done your goals yet. Now that you have your 2021 goals in here, hold on, let me just make sure we can't see 2022. Nope, not yet. My guess is it'll come out tomorrow. That's my guess. You can set your 2022s, you just can't see them like this. And what we want today is, because when we back this up, we need 33 closed units. Well, that means we need 44 under contract. That means we need 59 agreements. That means we need 78 appointments kept. That means we need to set 104. Whew. And this is the number that we want to focus on. So if you have your piece of paper right now, go ahead and write this number that you get for your appointment set. Go ahead and just write that down on a piece of paper.
Do the goals first, and you'll come up with this. And leave it as what it tells you. Because are you going to be upset if you get more out of it? Leave the 75%.
Yep.
Just leave it however it's set. Yeah. You'll learn as you go.
So if you are not able to get onto command, I can give you a quick, just like, say if you want to close 10 deals, multiply that by, I think, what is our ratio here? I think we said it's normally 6.
So this is
but this one to this one. That's a short one. That's a little bit less because your numbers are, your conversion is a lot higher on these.
I think it's 6, yeah.
But if you just take the number that you want to close and then multiply it by 6, you should get about that estimate for most agents. Bryan's are a little different up here. All right, does everybody have their appointment set? Because this is the number that Bryan, after months of Bryan telling Bryan, like, get into opportunities, you need to set up your opportunities. Get in there, Bryan, do it. What made it click was telling Bryan what he had to do every week. Well, what did I tell you had to do every week? Once we got through this part, what did I tell you had to do every week? How many?
I figured out that I needed 4 opportunities.
4 opportunities. So that's the number we want to find for you. So if we know you want to set 104 appointments, or let's just make it a little easy. Those numbers are high. Let's say you want to set 100 appointments. If we take that number, what do we decide on the multiplier for you, Brian? No, that was a different number. Come on, man. That's all right. If you take your appointment set and you multiply it by 5, that's the number we decided on. That's going to be the number of opportunities you need to add through the year in order to close the number of deals that it says over here. Multiply by 5? No, it's 20%, remember? 20% of opportunities turn into appointments. That's our conversion ratio we're using there. That's why it's multiplying by 5, is because we're assuming that if you had 100 opportunities in there, you're going to actually turn 20% of them into appointments. That's where the times 5 comes from.
But basically, I know I need to get 4
Agreements.
4 opportunities a week. And an opportunity is anyone even hints that they would buy, sell, or invest in this. And if I'm making care calls, so I call people, birthday, we'll go over all that in a second. But if I'm just doing my care calls, and I call 800 people a quarter, and I just go, so 17 people, 4 days a week. Those 17 people, one a day will be like, oh yeah, I wish I could buy, sell, or they'll say something about real estate, and I don't bring them paper. But when those people say that, they go and talk to me. And then I have a follow-up with that. I don't try and sell them right then. I figure out their timeline, unless they say I want to buy right then.
You create an opportunity just based on that conversation. Not
Yes,
just,
and you
not
should.
really contact and a follow-up and all that.
Yeah.
Brian,
Great enough.
if somebody's talking to you about, they're like, oh, I want to buy, in X amount of time. What's your window? When do you put people in as an opportunity?
2 years simple. If any time that someone tells you, especially buyers, if they tell you a certain amount of time, you can divide it by half.
Divided by 2.
Yeah, divide by
Sorry guys, if you don't know, I used to be a math teacher, so I hear stuff like that. I'm like, dividing by a half is not the same as dividing by 2.
So I divide by 2, whatever. And I make it really simple. So like if they say, I'm gonna buy next year, they're gonna buy in the next 6 months. So if someone says at any point that they want to buy or sell, they go in opportunities. I also preface like, hey, what have you done to prepare for them? And they're like, what? What do you mean? I go, it's very straightforward. I go, 90% of people that I talk to, when they say they're gonna buy in the future, it's because they haven't figured out financially, they're afraid to find out financially or through credit what they're able to do now. And I go, I know I made that mistake. Now I have to wait another year to purchase another home. And then they're like, oh, shit. I go, yeah, even me in this business, I did it. And I have to wait until July of 2022 to purchase another rental. And like, it's just one of those things. And I'm humbled and like that with them. And then all of a sudden, they're like, oh, cool. Well, what do? I go call so-so. I have a lender that also used to own a credit fix company. I can give you guys his info. He teaches some classes too on credit. It's amazing. And he's easy to talk to. And I just go, hey, you should talk to this person. And I try and get them to go back and forth so I can then set a buyer's consultation appointment. And I'll sign it. If they say they're not going to buy in the next year, I sign it for 2 years. If they say they can't buy for the next 2 years, I sign it for 3. I don't want to see someone then go and purchase another home with someone else. I had a client that closed on me last month while I was on vacation. She went to an open house that I already signed her. She thought it was weird that I was signing her. She said she was going to buy for another year. Went to an open house in her condo complex that she's renting at. Was like, hey, I like this. I want to put an offer in. And then she told me how the open house person kept telling her how they should use them because they can get them a better deal and that they should actually offer 15 grand over and no inspections. I got her 6 grand in inspections fixed at so like I would have lost that client and she would have paid me. So you are doing your friends and family a benefit by signing right away. It's who's going to do a better job for them than some stranger doesn't care.
Did you turn that in?
No, I'm trying to recruit them.
That's the way to go. Make them better. Make them better. No snitching.
Man.
Yeah. Don't snitch, just educate them. Yeah. You made me lose my train of thought there, Tyson.
Everyone's a possible recruiter. Everyone can be trained. I see that as a training opportunity.
Love it. Right on. And I mean, I just cannot stress to you guys enough how much that will change your business. If you just decide that you're not going to wait for them to be ready to sign that agency agreement, that you bring it up, you'll see it in Bryan's checklist later, that he's reminding himself to bring that conversation up and get that started so he can actually be hired by them. That's how you change it from 13 signatures 1 year to 22 halfway through the year, by just changing your habits and the expectation for your clients, because most of them are absolutely fine with hiring you before they're ready. Most of them aren't, because they're already there with you. They like you, trust you, know you, and they're going to do it. They don't know any better. No client's going to be like, hey, can I hire you 6 months before I plan to do my house sale? No, but if you bring it up and tell them you're going to start working for them then, and you can work for them until they're ready, they don't mind that. And they say, well, do I have to pay you anything? And you're like, no, not until we close, only if we close. Maybe you guys do retainers and stuff.
Because you don't want to go to work for free, do you? Of course not. Well, I don't want to, so just want a commitment from you saying that if I keep working with you and guide you in that direction, I'm going to. Is that fair? No, I guess that's fair. So,
Chase, question. I do a year on all my agreements. Almost never get pushback, and if I do, I won't sign it. Yeah.
But you certainly would your safety years, something like further out, or just your.
You gotta go with the feel. There's a feeling industry. There's a relationship feeling. You can try and be black and white, but there's so much gray. So like, you just need to go off your gut, and don't let your limited beliefs make you go backwards. Go with what you believe and stay strong. And if they question you, like, I've done this a lot. This is what you heard.
All right. Now you guys get to see some of my favorite stuff. If you haven't heard me talk about opportunities in command, it is my absolute favorite piece of command because of this, because of what we do with Bryan and what I can see it does for people's businesses. And it makes it really easy to see where your goals are at. And I just want to point out here, I'm on the opportunities dashboard. We're looking at Bryan's, and there's a couple of pieces on here that really help show the reality of your business. For instance, let's look at Bryan's activity for the last year. We told you guys already that it was 6 months in January when he really decided that he was going to do this system the right way. And all this graph is showing is just the progress of how many opportunities are in the system. And you can see what happens when he started in January to take it serious from 77 back in October, just a year ago. He had does that say 11, Bryan? Jesus. He had 11 in there a year ago. He decided to be intentional about his business in January. Well, it did start in December, but that was the buildup and me being like, Bryan, let's do it. And he would only do it if he was sitting in front of me. And we worked through that month. We got through December, and then January, like I said, he decided that now it's time to run my business as a system. And do you see the systematicness of his business now? Because when you have these opportunities up there at that level, those people are going to close. Those are all people. Now he's looking at in October or September this month, he has 107 opportunities. And you remember before where he's trying to set even more than that, right? He's even trying to push himself now. 4 is the old number for him. Four a week is the old number.
My goal has been this whole year to get 4 agreements and 3 under contract tomorrow. And now that it's October 1st, I'm pushing for next year's goals. Tomorrow starts next year. Don't be fooled by that. Tomorrow starts next year. That's why we did this next year. Whatever. English and math are my second language, and it's time to figure out. I'm not smart, so now you can tell me. So, yeah, so it starts now. So be prepared now to start pushing for next year, right? So now I want to get now. That's why they're starting to show up. They didn't show up yesterday. Showed up today. Literally, we looked at this yesterday. Just showed up today. And it's being allowed now. So my goal now is to get 5 signed agencies a month and 4 under contract. And that's my goal every single.
Now, before we get into this, I gotta ask you guys' permission. We have to do a little bit of math because we need to get your weekly number. I know we missed this before, but
The number of opportunities you need to create per year, based on, we said, take the number of appointments that man told you, multiply those by 5. That's your annual number of opportunities. Then the trick to know how many you want to do per week, just divide that number, the total annual number, by 48. And that's being pretty nice to y'all, because 48 weeks in a year, there are not 48 weeks in a year, obviously. But I don't think there's anybody in here that wants to work all 52. And so,
I
be
really
realistic.
like 44.
Be realistic. If you know you're going to take 2 months off in the year, take 8 weeks off of 52. Take 8 off of 52. So you know how many weeks you're working. 48 is a nice number to work with right here, just because 1 week off every quarter makes sense. And that's all this is based on. 1 week off every quarter or a month off every year. Because I know personally that I know every agent doesn't work every week of the year. There's nobody that does. And so be realistic so that you know what the expectation is for your business. If, like Bryan said, he said, I'm not going to work 48. Like, I'm only working 44 weeks this year. I'm going to take, 2 months off, or however that does equate to. Look at that. Yeah, exactly. I like going. It should be a number somewhere around here. Your number might be 2 or 3 if you had a smaller profit goal. But knowing how many you have 5. Anybody else want to share 2? Who else?
I think mine's 5%. So mine's
9. Anybody have a higher one than 9? Bigger goal than 9?
That's how it is. I'm doing. Yeah, that's.
I mean, if you.
That's
That's
also
really
you'll realize that your conversions will get better.
Yeah.
So you won't really, I need 4% going.
Are all these opportunities coming from Spear or generating?
I do it all Spirit and referrals.
Bryan has one funnel on top of this. That's it. And that's Facebook. We're gonna talk a little bit about how he does this, because honestly, it almost makes me mad at how little he does, with how much they tell you, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. Bryan sees the people on their birthdays, sends them cards, and talks to them on Facebook. And calls them. That's it. That's his 135, everyone. That's it. Birthdays, social media engagement.
Social proof helps a lot, like posting what I'm doing constantly.
and phone
Real
calls.
estate, make sure that like you post your personal stuff. So you can't just post like, see this house, this, that. We tend to realtor too much. Like I go on hikes a lot with my dog, I do that, I'm a firearm instructor. I post that. Unfortunately, it's really not popular. The links go really far down. I post anything about firearms, but like I then have to go. I'm going to teach your guys. Before dinner time, but yeah, so I try and mix it up to show them, and not just a robot song. I try and do funny stuff. I at least twice a year put up a video that's very, very bold. I haven't drank in over 3 years. I've gone through a lot of changes and stuff like that. So like I used to bartend at a very risque environment. So like I've changed my life dramatically. And I'll give like a little thing about like my vulnerability. Being vulnerable is extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. You can't get people to trust you if you're not vulnerable yourself. You can't expect people to be vulnerable if you're not vulnerable yourself. So just remember.
And this isn't
Lessons from Bryan.
this isn't a social media class, but like Bryan said, it's part of his system. And social media, getting business from there, there's only 2 rules, and they're very simple. Be authentic, be consistent. That's it. That's my only advice I tell other agents and Bryan when he says, I want to do Facebook, and it's all right, okay, be consistent, be authentic, be yourself. If you do those 2 things,
Don't forget
social medias, we'll just talk about any of them because they all work the same in those 2 levels. Be yourself and do it all the time, like regularly, and you're gonna get social media as one of your pillars.
Do you have a business Facebook?
I do not have a business Instagram. I'm working on that. And I have not touched my LinkedIn years. I'm working on that. And I'm on YouTube. Apparently, I have to have Snapchat, TikTok too, and I'm having Art and Leslie Jackson do all that for me because I can handle Instagram because I post on Instagram and I post to Facebook. And I take it from Facebook and share it to my Facebook business. That's as complicated as I'm gonna get. I get annoyed when I have to like things and tell me whether I'm liking Skillful Living or Bryan or not. And I'm like, how do I fix this? And then how do I like both? And it drives me crazy, right? So someone did a poll recently of how many people are splitting Facebook on Instagram, and 90% or 60% of people that are in that post, they're all around 35 and younger, said that they don't touch Facebook. They only look at Instagram. So just like when you give a presentation, you need to have graphs for those on the distance assessment, those I see people, and then you need to have some feeling involved of like pretty pictures for the eye people, and you need to be very direct about the points for the people, and the S you can show like the security of it. You need to have all that in your presentation. You need to do both. Because some people just want to look at pictures, then maybe read it, or read it and look at pictures like this. So it's two different platforms.
Are you going to do a class on social media?
We will. It'll be part of this series probably.
Yeah, we might be able to get it into the next one of this specific class.
I'll probably want to get my course. Just so you know, on Facebook, stop liking things, start part. Unless it's a creepy picture or something bad, just ignore it. But like,
I know I told you guys this is not a social media class, and Brian's trying to make it into one.
Yeah,
we got to talk about opportunities, man. We got to talk about opportunities, because this is the other piece that when I was working with Bryan, it's a very, very simple encouragement for you, but it worked for him. And it can work for a lot of you guys of understanding what these two numbers mean.
it's my favorite part.
Your potential income is if, scroll down. You want to see the seller one too?
You want to use this.
Exactly. Change, if you're not into leases, use this to put in other agents and run a pipeline for your bringing in down. All right. So potential versus probable income. If you've made an opportunity before, you know that there's an estimated amount for the sale or the buyer. You want to be putting those things in. You want to be putting in the estimate so it'll calculate these numbers. And what this means, the potential income is if Bryan closed everything that you see in the pipeline right now. Every one of these numbers that you see, 8, 3, 2, and 1, if they all closed, Bryan would make $204,000 in GCI based on his other numbers. His probable income is talking about each of these based on where they're at, because this one here in the active section is going to be a little bit higher probability of closing than the 8 over in the cultivate section. And Command knows that. Command has little percentages you can change for each of these based on where the opportunity is at. And we're going to show you that in a moment. But as you move folks through the pipeline and move them into the closings and move them over to the right, what is it, the left side? Is that the left side for you guys or the right? Right side, thank you, I'm not backwards today. But as you move them across to the right, you'll see this potential number starting to go up, and we want it to match, you'll see the probable number start to go up and match the potential number. And when you look at all Bryan did, what got him through January, is he was just pushing himself to see that potential number hits, what, 6, 7 figures, 8 figures?
Yes, 7 figures.
9
I really
figures.
want to get over
$1 million.
I want to get over $1 million. And then I honestly slow down with it, but my goal is to get to 3 mil at least 2 mil by the end of this year.
And that's potential, right?
That's potential, yes.
And that's just buyers.
That's just buyers. Each, the buyer and the seller pipeline.
So you can see the total number.
Oh yeah, you can see your
So
totals
this
down
is-
here.
My goal is to get this to 2 mil by the end of 21, and this way higher up, at least to 400. Because when you start paying people in, they're only 10%, and then as you push them along, you go to 50%. We'll show you that in a second. But it makes you want to push people along and see that grow, and it is super addictive, and it's a good addiction. So, sorry.
If there is anything that you do every day in Command, after this class, it should be going to opportunities. It is your money tree. If you have extra time and you've done your calls, you come into opportunities, because when you start building this up, Bryan has 68 opportunities just in his buyer's cultivation section. You can see it even breaks down further within there with the timing of each of those. So when Bryan is in there and he says, oh, I got a couple of extra minutes, nobody answered today on my care calls, so I have some extra time. Well, I can come in and shake this money tree and see if any of these people are ready to move on. And you can see inside here.
I personally do it every single time. I move people this way, and I start over here. I work this way. I have to get to appointments, and then I have to get to hot, no matter what, every single Monday. And then I start going this way. But you'll see how we plan that out.
Are those tags, watch 12 plus are those?
Those are in there. I put these because you've seen how good I am at math and speaking, that I need a visual reminder of what these are, because I can't remember what my own name is.
Mhm.
So
Let me go to Jen, and then Chase will answer your question.
How do I have a point and I'm working with now, so like, I think still says 0. I want to get them confident.
have you made one yet?
I don't know.
Are they very solid?
And Bryan, just be careful. She's in the coaching program, so it might be slightly different because it's going to be there. Yeah, yours is a little different situation. My guess is it's probably just in your team section, and it's probably just not in your own.
You guys see these numbers too?
When you're saying these numbers, you're talking about the like money there, Bryan?
So unless I know what they're approved for or what they're looking for, I always put that on the 2.8% on a buyer. And I always put 350 if I don't know. Sometimes it goes lower, sometimes it goes higher. Usually it goes higher. I have 4 clients right now that are lower, so it averages out. And then I have, in under contract, or we'll get there, but yeah. So under contract, I have scroll here down. Oh, I guess it's this one. I have one that's way.
Those are the ones that are set.
What's that?
What is that number?
37,000.
So now that I know that they're under contract, I'm putting sale price 1.35. It's at 2.8%. So I know I'm gonna make this.
Oh, I see, that's your commission.
Mhm.
So these are all under contract. These are money coming to me. So
You can see it might be a little hard for some of you guys in the back, but each of these stages has their own probable and potential income calculations as well at the bottom. So you can see like Bryan's,
this is what I have.
his probable is 51,000, his potential is 57. And you can see it's computing at a 90% probability. And I want to just take a step back into cultivate, because we mentioned these stages. One of the vocabulary pieces about this class is these 5 things across the top. Those are called phases of a transaction. So you'll hear me say phases. I mean one of the 5 across the top. Each one of those has their own set of stages, and the stages are 100% customizable. They fit your business to exactly what you need them for. So we're going to just take a look at Bryan's real quick, and changing them is a cinch. All you do is if you go into the state or the phase that you want to change, we're in cultivate. I want to change, you guys will see in there now, hot, warm, nurture. That's what you'll see right now. And all Bryan did was add the numbers onto there by coming over to the pencil, clicking on the pencil and adding 12 plus months to the word watch.
I didn't change it. I don't change it. I did add one thing.
You can change the percentages if you know what your probability is. If somebody is in the 12 months out section and you know that you will close 20% of the people that get into that, well, then you would put 20% here. If you just leave them the way they are in the defaults, it's really easy. You don't need to change them.
I feel like it keeps you more local.
Now, in here, we can change the name of the stage. We can add additional stages, which can make sense sometimes. And let's take a look at Bryan's appointment section just for that reason. If we look at appointments, he has scheduling, scheduled, kept, which is what you guys all see. But Bryan, tell me about this last piece and why you have that last stage inside of appointment.
So there wasn't a thing for people that have signed with me, because I signed people pretty far in advance, but hadn't actually been approved, right? So haven't gotten pre-qual. So now you guys can see how bad I am with computers. All these people here are working on getting approved for whatever reason. And I made it 40% because this other one's 30%, right? And if you go into actives, it goes into 50 automatically. So the only one I made was in appointments, and I added signed agreement for 40%. And it just makes sense for me, right? So when we go to appointments 2, scheduling,
How did you add that?
let's ask him.
How do we add that stage?
Yeah.
Great question,
I don't know if
Terry.
everybody's touching the computer, so-
So all we do is at the top of this phase, each phase has its own button up here that says edit stages. We click on edit stages. It gets us into the stages menu, and then if we want to add additional, we can add from here
Because you're gonna have people that are signed that aren't.
somewhere.
Right.
Some people like to put that in their active section.
I didn't do that with this because I feel that are in like a certain phase of sign and pre-qual, but haven't really found, they're trying to figure out something. I have 2 clients that are trying to figure out their finances right now to sell their house and buy another one. And in reality, if someone already owns a house, you need to sell them on buying the house, not selling. Because they need to know where they're going. So we're working on to figure out their logistics for that and what they need to do. I have 2 people refinancing the houses. They obviously have to wait 6 months. And then, so it's a nice little thing to buffer. So when I'm going through things, I get confused really easily, especially with computers, and pretty much anything besides talking. And so it just keeps me in mind. I identify it so that it just seems fun for me instead of stressful.
Right.
Because computers stress me out.
Tiffany, you had a
So
question?
I assume changing one contact from each stage is a drag and drop.
You should go back to go find me.
And then how do you change one contact to a different
Scroll down.
phase?
It's all drag and drop is the
Okay.
easiest way.
It's not.
I thought we, oh, you're you and seller
Oh,
buy,
right.
yeah.
So this is me. I'm gonna buy. That's my goal. I have.
So I can move
I'm gonna buy
Bryan
duplex,
right
so
across.
I'll go there. So
Oh,
let's, and then
Okay.
go to, so watch. So let's leave me an appointment for right now. So now let's go look at scroll. Let's go back and show them the probable. So this is just probable right here, right? It's only at 10%.
Well, your
Watch what we take.
hips are in the way of everybody on that side. What you're pointing at.
So if I'm this guy, and we take it from 10%, we'll take it to 90% real fast, but go get out of there and watch them see those numbers change.
Oh, you mean like the one on the dashboard? Open a new link or open a new tab. Class is worth it. Learn something
Yeah.
today.
So we'll see 22, 27, right?
So 22, 27 in his current one. If we take Bryan and he closes this duplex that he wants to buy for himself, or we'll at least just bring him under contract, it'll drop him into the first stage when you drop him into one of those phases. And then, so now I can go into under contract.
It brings it up to 90.
We see Bryan's in there. Let's refresh this page.
It goes from 27.
Thinking. 2,249 spikes. A lot of money. Lots of money. Chase, what's up?
So when you have a customer going through the process, and they suddenly like something goes bad or they don't like the product, you move backwards. You move backwards.
Yeah.
You how do you move off?
I can't tell you how many people were in appointments and or even were already pre-approved that were like, hey, something came up in the family. I had to like put lost opportunity. I had someone would never meet with me to sign. She was an opportunity appointments, never make an appointment, and then sign as well online. Doing the best way to not care if you lose clients is to have coverage. And that's something I learned from Bryan. Very well. if you never want to be stressed about money, make sure that you always can see it coming. Through this, it shows me that's coming, go over your pipeline. And this became a huge passion of mine to try and to get moving forward.
So use the lost opportunity, you don't archive.
If they're gone, they're gone, right? And I don't need to hold on to them. That's fine. They chose someone else.
Normal rule though, Chase, just to make it easy, because we only have 7 minutes left. Don't delete your opportunities ever. Don't say lost opportunity unless you absolutely know you will not work with that client. Otherwise, keep it in there, keep working them, see if you can turn them around. You can archive it. I don't suggest it because you don't see it when you archive things. And sometimes that can be a pain. It's more with contacts, but with opportunities, you can bring them back. The lost ones you can't bring back. It's more like lost is like deleting. But
And with that said, he's not correct. One of the people that I had in Cultivate that I put in there that I did not know lost for someone else 2 years ago, I'm now putting the condo on the market tomorrow, and she's buying it. So because I was accidentally following up with her, not knowing that she had already bought a place like 2 years ago, I never got hold of her. I just kept leaving messages. She was like, "Hey, I'm ready for you to help me find a place. I bought this one 2 years ago with my cousin. I don't want to work." You've been the only person that follows up. I never talked to her. So, "Hey, it's my brother. You doing awesome? Talk to you soon." I don't know. I'm super awkward.
all right,
So it's okay. It doesn't matter as long as they see my name show up. That's all that matters.
Jen, do you have a question? There is one more thing I want to get to today. So if we do go long, I hope you guys are okay with just a minute or two.
I'm not really understanding like the crossover moment of cultivate to appointment.
When they move. So when they move from cultivate means that you're just trying to get them. You know that they want to buy or sell in the next for me, the next 2 years, whatever you decide. When I take them from cultivate to appointment is when they're like, when they show a little bit more interest, I know I need to set an appointment for them. I put them in the setting, or
Scheduling.
appointment. And then once I get them set, I put them in set and then kept. And I've been bad about putting in dates. It's something I'm working on. And so when I go from scheduling to set, I need to put in there when it's set, and then I need to put in the date when it's kept. And then when they sign. If they get signed and pre-approved, I just skip the sign and put them right into active into pre-approved. And then once I make a search for them, go into active. Once they're pre-approved, I put them here. And sometimes I skip steps, right? Like they might already be pre-approved as I'm being signed, and I immediately create a search for them. As soon as they want to go to showing, I put them into showings. As soon as they say, let's set up a showing, I just move them straight over, right? I had to move all these were in showings that moved them backwards because they slowed down. They had something happen in their life. They slowed down. They're still on a search, and they're still actively looking on it. Or unless you can see when they're looking at it, they're still actively looking at it. So I still have them in searching. I just don't have them in showing. And honestly, we deleted negotiating, I guess.
Negotiations doesn't really make sense in this market.
Use it, but sometimes I use it.
The legacy one you'll see in there also as well by
deleted
default.
I don't know why
It's because of Dotloop. Blame Dotloop. That is why it's in there, and you don't need to use it. So what was I going to mention? All right. One thing I really have to drive home with all of you agents, your job exists in the first 3 phases. That is where your work is. That is where you are doing what you need to do, that you need to be there. No one's going to cultivate business for you, set appointments, until you get like a VA and all that stuff. But your job is these 3 things. Once they go under contract, most of you are sending that over to a TC and handling the easier parts that you're just servicing the deal every once in a while and closed, of course. Then the cycle just starts over again, right? Because as soon as they close, we start putting them on our drips to make sure that they're getting the touches that we want for our annual touches, 36, 72, whatever.
A TC.
I don't know about business yet.
Okay, do you have one piece of business?
Yeah, that's how much business you need.
Okay, so here's my point on TCs. I thought about
Can you make it in a minute?
Yes.
I really want to talk about checklists, but
So with TCs, the reason you should use them and just pay whatever the cost of is between $300 and $500 depending on what you use, how you use it, right? You have no idea what your commission is going no idea what they're going to find, you don't know what it is. Why is $500 difference? It should. It's going to take away all the busy work, and all you got to do is check on in on things. You just got to be there for inspections, do inspection stuff, and reviews and stuff. So why waste your time doing that when you can spend time cultivating, generating business? Your job is to lead gen, not to do a bunch of paper.
That's why we say your job is in these things. That's where your job exists. After this piece, that's the bonus stuff where it's the easier part. But our job, our work, exists in cultivate mostly. That's where the work is in this. Now, I want to show you guys this last little piece because it's kind of the icing on the cake. 2 opportunities that helps make sure that Bryan is doing what Bryan is supposed to be doing. Where do we put our? Your mom would? Yeah. All right. So much further. So when we come up here to this edit stages button, there's one thing we haven't talked about yet in that menu. Like I said before, each phase has its own set of checklist item, or excuse me, own set of stages, and each stage has their own set of checklists. So we see that Bryan's 12-month watch, there are 8 items that Bryan knows he wants to complete for each of those people that get into watch. He makes sure these things are happening. It's not rocket science again, y'all. He makes sure they're on call plan because he knows that those are the 2 pillars in his business that if he doesn't do those things, his business does not operate.
You don't have to ask for business.
We see him there.
Just your name coming up on the caller.
Add a neighborhood and put them on the nurture. It is one of the easiest plans we have in command. If you know how to sell the value of that plan to one of your clients, which is all it is check your neighborhood, see the stats, ask me if you have any questions. They'll open it all the time. Make sure the neighborhood they care about. And then here, we talked about Bryan being intentional about his Facebook, and he just makes sure that he goes in there and interacts.
And say something that they got a new puppy. You know?
This does not mean go like their photo. That is not an interaction. This is all a like is. Bryan, that's all you're doing. Is this. You're waving at somebody barely with a like.
Like, I rarely. Perfect.
But interact. Interaction means engagement, which is a comment on their photo or on something, but you need to comment. That's what it means by interaction. Or
Puts you back in your algorithms too. Like,
what else could you do besides comment?
What do you do to, so
hey, just click. You can't do it on this part, but yeah, you just click.
So that
In there, I'll double check what I was doing. Click on it. I will comment. I'll send them. I'll comment. I already have all their. When I do this, I make sure that their Facebook, their birthdays in command. So it tells me to put them on the smart plan. Then when it tells me to send a birthday card, I text them and go, hey, do you care if I send you a birthday card? They're always like, oh, why would I care? I'd be like, I don't know, some people do. And then they send me their address. And then I go into realism and see if they want to rent and put a tag. And that'll create other smart plans later on.
Jen?
Is there a place after you to find like suggestions?
If you
Put in a checklist?
if you registered for this class, we're going to send out a Excel document with Bryan's checklist items in there. So you guys will get a list of this. So if you want to copy it, you'll get that. You'll get that tomorrow in an email. Absolutely. So asked again to get to the checklist. We go into the phase that we want to change the checklist for. So cultivate. We come up to the top to click edit stages.
We'll get through all these. We're just trying to keep it to hours.
And in here, the one thing I want to be clear about, when we come through this, these that you see on this list, the 8, 6, and 8, these are universal for every opportunity that gets dropped into that stage. So anybody who gets dropped into watch 12 months now, all of them will get those 8 checklist items to be done on them. Same with when they move over into nurture and move into hot, they get those different checklist items because these are the default for the stages. And I say that because sometimes we have people or opportunities that might require additional touches or additional checklist items. So if I wanted to come in here for, well, we lost you, didn't we?
I'm in under contract.
We see that Kelly in here has all of them that we want, but if we want to add just specific ones to Kelly's checklist, we can do that when we click on her, when we click on Kelly's actual checklist item right here, 0 of 7 here. Oh,
We
let me
delete
scroll
all
this
that
up.
and so it's what's betrayed. But when I say every master comes to disaster, I've been a lot of disaster. So I'm still working on the master. So we're Steve and I through this have been trying to figure out what exactly.
Easy enough
Because
here.
I've been too creative. Now it's just-
The checklist items are very specific to your business, but what I encourage you guys to do, if you're like, I would love to do that, do not make it hard. Don't put it in there and make it complicated and have all the dates. Make sure you do the things that are important to your business, like you see Bryan do. And if you don't know what's important to your business, let's do a 1, 3, 5 together. Let's figure out how you're going to do your business. What are the strategies? What are the pillars? What's your goal? And then we can come in here and build your checklist items to make sure that those things happen with the most important people in your database, which is opportunities. That is what this is all about. So the next class that we're going to have with you guys, you saw a couple of the smart plans in there. Those are Keller Williams smart plans. We're going to talk about how Bryan uses them in detail with his database in the next class, which will be, when are we going to do the next class? Probably the last week of October. Ooh, that'll be a spooky class.